There are people in this room right now watching online, sitting in silence. But inside of you is a millionaire mind locked in a poor man's self-image. And the tragedy is, the only reason your millions haven't arrived is because you haven't started acting like they're already here. Let me ask you something. If you received 10 million tomorrow, what would change in your life? Would your walk change? Would your voice change? Would your routine, your schedule, your relationships change? Would you begin to command rooms with authority? Walk into boardrooms with clarity? And stop entertaining small talk from people with small minds? Now here's the question that flips the world upside down. Why haven't you started doing those things already? You don't become a millionaire when you receive a check. You become a millionaire when your mind outgrows poverty. Because until your mentality changes, you will sabotage every opportunity that was meant to change your life. Money is attracted to management, not desire. God never gives you what you pray for. He gives you what you can manage. So if you don't have it, it's not because He's withholding it. It's because your mindset cannot maintain it. A man with a vision behaves differently. A woman with a purpose walks differently. When you know what you carry, you stop trying to impress people and start preparing for influence. Don't wait until your bank account changes to change your posture. Change your posture and watch your life follow suit. You don't need a prophecy to see your future. Just look at your habits. Show me your calendar, and I'll show you your priorities. Show me your daily routine, and I'll show you the size of your vision. Millionaires do not wake up when they feel like it. They wake up because they know what is waiting on the other side of discipline. Stop negotiating with your future. Show up like it already belongs to you. Stop dressing for where you are. Start dressing for where you're going. Stop speaking like you're struggling. Start speaking like a CEO. Stop walking like you're uncertain. Start walking like a leader. Faith is not silent. Faith moves. Faith walks into empty rooms and speaks as if the crowd is already there. That's not arrogance. That's vision. You will never rise above the image you have of yourself. You don't attract wealth, success, and honor by hustling harder. You attract them by becoming the person those things are looking for. Do you see yourself as a millionaire? Not just rich, but wealthy in wisdom, character, influence, and purpose? If not, you'll keep repelling the very thing you say you want. The kingdom doesn't respond to need. It responds to faith. You're not pretending to be a millionaire. You're prophesying your future through your behavior. You're not faking it till you make it. You're faithing it until it's inevitable. Walk like it. Talk like it. Think like it. Plan like it. Pray like it. Prepare like it. Because if you act like you already have it, you're giving God something to bless. You were not born to pay bills and die. You were born to create wealth, not just for you, but for generations you will never meet. So I dare you, starting today, to act like you are already a millionaire. Not for the applause of people, but because your future is too expensive for cheap behavior. Wealth is never the result of money. It is the result of mentality. Long before a man becomes rich in his hands, he must first become rich in his mind. That is a universal law of life. The most dangerous poverty is not financial poverty, it is mental poverty. Because when your mind is poor, you can lose money, gain money, and lose it all again. But when your mind is wealthy, even if you are stripped of every possession, you will find a way to multiply again. The mind is the womb of transformation. Every product, every business, every brand, every solution we see in the world began not in the earth but in the unseen world of thought. The car you drive was once in someone's imagination. The clothes you wear were once an idea. Even your house was once invisible to the natural eye. So if everything that is visible was born in the invisible, then the secret to creating anything, including wealth, is learning how to govern the invisible world of your mind. God never begins anything on the outside. He begins on the inside. When He wanted to create man, He formed the body from the dust. But man was not alive until He breathed into him spirit. That same principle applies to wealth. Wealth is not created outside in, it is created inside out. The reason many people never walk in abundance is not because they are not gifted. It is because their thinking is still in bondage. They pray for harvest while still thinking like slaves. They ask for more while still managing less. They cry out for increase, yet their thoughts have never broken free from limitation. You will never receive on the outside what your mind rejects on the inside. A person who grows up around lack and limitation begins to believe that scarcity is normal. And unless their mind is renewed, they will unconsciously recreate that environment again and again, even if millions pass through their hands. That is why lottery winners often go broke within years, because their money changed but their mind did not. That is also why people who once had nothing can rise to own empires, because they changed the way they saw themselves, and the world was, forced to follow. You will never attract what you don't believe you deserve. The law of life is simple. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not so he will become, not so he hopes to be, so is he. Right now. That means your current reality is the echo of your internal belief system. You don't see the world as it is, you see it as you are. Your thoughts are architects building your tomorrow one silent brick at a time, and until you renovate your thinking, you will keep decorating poverty, calling it survival. Vision is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is not a suggestion from heaven, it is a requirement for those who are called to live beyond mediocrity. When a person discovers vision, they stop existing and start living. Vision gives birth to discipline. Vision produces conviction. Vision shapes behavior. And most of all, vision gives birth to value. A person without vision will undervalue themselves, misuse their time, entertain distractions, and waste potential. But when vision is born in a person's spirit, their life becomes focused, and everything they do begins to align with a greater purpose. You cannot live like everyone else when you see what others do not. The clearer your vision, the more you begin to see how valuable your time is, how sacred your energy is, and how dangerous compromise becomes. You begin to walk differently. You speak with intention. You listen with discernment. You stop chasing people and start attracting purpose. That's the power of vision. It places a demand on your life, and anything with no demand will eventually lose its value. That's why when you don't know who you are, you will sell yourself. Cheap trade your destiny for comfort and accept whatever the world gives you. But when you have a vision, you set the price. You no longer accept offers that insult your calling. Vision gives you the ability to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Because vision is not just about where you're going, it's about who you are becoming on the way there. When you see your future clearly, your present behavior adjusts automatically. You start making decisions, not just for today, but for 10 years from now. You no longer ask, can I afford this, but does this align with where I'm going? That's the language of vision. It creates a new standard for your life. It silences the noise of distraction. It eliminates the addiction to approval. It delivers you from the opinions of others because you are too busy becoming what God showed you in the secret place. You don't need to beg for favor when you have vision. Favor finds you. Doors open for the man who knows where he's going. Resources find their way into the hands of the focused. People with vision are never without provision, because provision always follows vision. You don't have to manipulate. You don't have to chase. You don't have to scheme. Vision attracts what hustle tries to force. That's why vision is the most valuable currency you can carry. Not cash, not credit. Vision. Because vision is the seed of value, and when value increases, everything else begins to multiply around it. The problem is never the lack of resources. It's the lack of clarity. When you discover your vision, you rediscover your value. And when you understand your value, you stop trying to fit in and begin to rise. You do not need a prophet to tell you where your life is headed. You don't need a vision board or a lucky break to see your destiny. All you need to do is examine your habits. Your future is not in the stars. It's in your structure. Your habits are the prophets of your future. They are quietly shaping what you will become, whether you realize it or not. A man's life does not rise to the level of his intentions. It rises to the level of his patterns. We do not become successful by accident. Success is a result. It is the harvest of disciplined, repeated, intentional behavior. And failure is not a moment. It is a pattern that was ignored. That's why the most dangerous thing you can do is ignore what you do daily and still expect something different tomorrow. You can speak like a millionaire. You can post like a millionaire. You can even look like a millionaire. But if your habits do not match the future you're praying for, you are lying to yourself. Discipline is the difference between desire and destiny. What you do consistently is more powerful than what you do occasionally. If you sleep in more than you study, your future is being traded for comfort. If you scroll more than you strategize, you are feeding your emotions and starving your purpose. And what you feed grows. You cannot sow inconsistency and expect harvest. You cannot sow distraction and expect breakthrough. Life does not reward desire. It rewards discipline. Your habits reveal your priorities. You don't need to tell anyone what matters to you. Just show them your calendar. Show them your spending. Show them your routine. That's where your future is hiding. Greatness is not discovered in a moment of applause. It's hidden in what you do when no one is watching. The great are not born great. They are built in the secret place. They say no when others say yes. They prepare when others are partying. They invest when others are spending. And because they manage the small well, the large is entrusted to them. Most people are waiting for a promotion while neglecting their preparation. But heaven doesn't promote potential. It promotes stewardship. If you want to know what kind of life you'll live 5 years from now, study the habits you are practicing today. Do you wake up with intention or hit the snooze button until life forces you up? Do you schedule your priorities or spend your days reacting to everything that screams for your attention? Are you building something or just surviving? Habits. Don't lie, they expose. You can't hide behind hope forever. Hope without habits is fantasy. Every successful person you admire, every millionaire, every leader, every influencer, has one thing in common. They have habits that match the weight of their assignment. They don't wait to feel motivated. They move out of commitment. They don't need external hype. They are governed by internal standards. Because success is not something you chase, it is something you attract by who you become daily. One of the most overlooked principles of purpose and influence is the way you carry yourself in your current season. Too many people are waiting for breakthrough before they change how they behave. They're waiting to be promoted before they dress like leaders. They're waiting for success before they speak with authority. They're waiting to be seen before they walk with confidence. But that is not how destiny works. You must align your behavior with your vision, not your current condition. You don't wait until you arrive to act like you belong. You act like you belong so that you will arrive. That's not pretending, that's prophetic alignment, that's faith in motion. How you present yourself is not just a matter of style, it's a reflection of identity. When you know who you are and where you're going, you dress in agreement with that reality. You speak with the tone of someone who has already arrived in the spirit before the manifestation. You walk as if the future is waiting on your footsteps. And when you do that, doors begin to open, not because of your appearance alone, but because of your posture. The world responds not just to who you are, but to how you carry who you are. People don't just follow words, they follow presence. Environments shift when someone enters the room knowing who they are. That is the behavior of a king. That is the confidence of a woman on assignment. That is the movement of someone who understands that their current location is not their final destination. When Joseph was called to Pharaoh, he changed his clothes. When David stepped into Saul's tent, he spoke like a warrior even before he held the sword. When Jesus read from the scroll in the synagogue, he declared who he was with no external evidence to back it up. Why? Because alignment always comes before announcement. If you wait until you have the platform to behave like a leader, you'll disqualify yourself before you ever arrive. God watches how you move in private to decide if you're ready for public promotion. You must dress like the position you're praying for. You must speak like the authority you want to carry. You must walk like your destiny already knows your name. Because everything in the kingdom begins with belief, and belief is always expressed through action. If your behavior contradicts your vision, your life will follow your behavior, not your dreams. That's why many people are gifted but stagnant. They say they want more, but their posture says otherwise. They claim to be leaders, but they still move like followers. They ask for increase, but they still carry themselves like beggars. What you're willing to tolerate in your habits, your language, and your image tells heaven how seriously you take your assignment. You don't need applause to walk like you're chosen. You don't need approval to speak like you carry weight. When your actions align with your future, you attract what your words could never reach. You will never rise above the image you hold of yourself. Not truly, not sustainably. You may touch higher levels temporarily, but you will always return to the level of your internal belief system. Because no matter how gifted you are, no matter how many doors are open to you, if your self-image is still rooted in insecurity, fear, or limitation, you will sabotage your own promotion. The world does not give you what you want. It mirrors who you believe you are. Your environment is not simply reacting to your voice, it's responding to your presence. And your presence is shaped by your self-perception. If you see yourself as valuable, the world begins to treat you that way. But if you secretly believe you are not worthy, you will attract environments that confirm that belief. Your life is a reflection of your internal image. This is why you can place two people in the exact same situation, same opportunity, same resources, same connections, and one will thrive while the other barely survives. It's not about the environment. It's about the internal lens through which they see themselves. People who carry a strong, healthy self-image walk into rooms differently. They don't ask for permission to exist. They don't beg for validation. They don't shrink in the face of greatness. They recognize they belong there, not because of arrogance, but because of understanding. They are not moved by titles or impressed by wealth, because they know they carry something just as valuable. Their inner world is rooted in identity, and identity determines influence. This is why the enemy doesn't need to take your opportunities to destroy your destiny. He just needs to distort your self-image. Because if he can convince you that you're not enough, you will forfeit what already has your name on it. You'll disqualify yourself from rooms that were built for you. You'll question favor instead of walking in it. And the tragedy is, it will never be a lack of gifting that limits you. It will be a lack of self-recognition. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Not what he says, not what others say, but what he believes about himself when no one else is looking. That belief system becomes the thermostat of your life. You will never outperform your identity. This is why your environment changes when your self-image changes. When you begin to see yourself as whole, worthy, and destined, you stop tolerating chaos. You stop participating in conversations that lower your standard. You stop partnering with people who can't see your value. You begin to command your space with quiet authority, and suddenly the world begins to adjust itself around your inner world. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. You don't attract what you pretend to be, you attract what you truly believe you are. When you finally see yourself as God sees you, complete, capable, called, everything around you begins to rise to that image. Faith is not a passive posture. Faith is not sitting quietly in a corner hoping for something to happen. Faith is movement. Faith is action. Faith is behaving now as if the answer has already arrived. Too many people confuse patience with passivity. They think faith means waiting on God to do something while they do nothing. But real faith makes demands. Real faith is visible. Real faith has evidence. When you truly believe something is yours, you don't wait to feel it. You begin to function like it. That's why the Bible says, faith without works is dead. Because if your behavior doesn't match your belief, your faith is a fantasy. You cannot say you believe in abundance and still act like you're stuck in survival. You cannot declare increase and still manage life from a place of fear. When faith is alive, your feet start moving even when your eyes see no proof. Faith speaks before it sees. Faith prepares for what it prayed for. Faith doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. Faith creates its own atmosphere. If you really believed you were going to be a millionaire, your behavior would change today. Not tomorrow. Today. You would dress differently, not to impress, but because you understand the language of excellence. You would talk differently, not with arrogance, but with clarity and authority. You would walk into meetings differently, expecting favor. You would handle resources differently, stewarding what's in your hand like a faithful servant who expects more. Because when you believe increase is coming, you don't hoard, you manage. You don't panic, you plan, you don't shrink, you stretch. Faith is not a feeling. Feelings fluctuate. Faith is a decision. And when that decision becomes conviction, it produces action. Some people are waiting on signs, confirmations, and open doors, while heaven is waiting on movement. God does not respond to need, he responds to faith. And faith that just talks but never moves is noise. It is possible to pray and still not believe. It is possible to shout and still doubt. But it is impossible to walk in faith and remain in the same place. Faith moves you. Faith interrupts your routine. Faith makes you uncomfortable. Faith will tell you to step out of the boat before you even see if the water will hold you. That's because faith doesn't ask for permission, it acts on revelation. When God told Abraham he would be the father of nations, he was an old man with no child. But Abraham didn't wait to see a baby before he started calling himself what God had already declared. That's the model. You don't wait until the account is full to declare overflow. You don't wait until people approve you to walk in your assignment. You don't wait for everything to look like the promise. You move like it's already yours, because in the realm of faith it already is. You're not waiting on God, He's waiting on your movement. Your walk is your witness. Your posture is your proof. Faith is not hoping God will do it. Faith is walking like He already did. As we close, let me remind you of this profound truth. You are already walking in the destiny you've been created for. The millionaire life you dream of, the success you envision, the impact you desire, it's already within you. But in order for it to manifest in the physical realm, you must first awaken it in your mind. You must embrace the mentality, the vision, the habits, the posture, the self-image, and the faith of the person you are becoming. Not the one you used to be, not the one others have tried to define for you, but the person that God has already called you to be. Your future is not determined by external circumstances. It is created by the thoughts you entertain, the actions you take, and the belief you live out every day. Wealth begins in the mind and grows in the soul. You must dress, speak, and act in alignment with the vision that God has placed within you. You must move like the person you want to be, not like the person you think you are today. Your habits are a reflection of your future, and your faith will take you places that your eyes can't yet see. The world does not just see you as you are, it sees you as you believe yourself to be. So my challenge to you is simple. Start acting like the millionaire you are already becoming. Start thinking like the leader you are already destined to be. Start speaking with the authority of the person whose time has come. Don't wait for the world to validate you. Walk with the confidence of someone who knows that their greatness is already unfolding. Believe that the best is already on its way and that you are not waiting for your breakthrough. You are walking in it right now. Remember, everything you need to succeed has already been provided. The question is, will you take the steps necessary to align your actions with your destiny? Will you choose today to act, speak, and think like the person who is already living in the success you desire? You are not waiting for a better future. Your future is waiting for you to walk into it. Now it's time to move, and move with purpose.